It was a quiet night. The moonlight filtered softly through the curtains, casting long shadows across the room. Anna sat in the dim light of her study, her fingers frozen on the edge of the laptop, her breath shallow and rapid. The truth was staring her in the face, a truth so horrifying that it shattered the last remnants of her belief in love, in trust, and in the man she had married. Her heart raced as she clicked open the final email, the one she had never meant to read. It was from a name she did not recognize, a name that her husband, Ethan, had never mentioned before. The subject line was simple: "I miss you, Ethan." The words on the screen blurred as her tears began to fall. How had it come to this? How had the man who swore eternal love become someone so different, so unrecognizable? The night she had confronted him about the late nights, the secretive phone calls, and the distant glances seemed like a lifetime ago. Back then, Ethan had denied everything. "You reimagining things," he had said, but Anna had known something was wrong, something was off in their marriage. She just hadn't been ready to face the truth. Now, the truth was undeniable. The woman in the emails wasn't just a stranger, she was a part of Ethan's secret life, a life Anna had been kept in the dark about for far too long. Betrayal, the word echoed in her mind like a death knell. Anna's hands trembled as she scrolled down the email. It was clear the affair had been going on for months. Her breath caught in her throat as the anger began to rise, mixing with an overwhelming wave of disbelief. For years, she had given everything to Ethan, her trust, her love, her devotion, and this was what he had done. Her mind raced. What was she supposed to do now? Was there any chance of healing, of reconciling? Or was it too late? But just as quickly as the fury and sorrow overtook her, a cold resolve formed. Revenge, the word whispered through her mind. This wasn't just about the affair anymore, this was about justice. Ethan would pay. He would pay for every lie, every whisper behind her back. The silent revenge would be hers. She closed the laptop slowly. Her decision made. This marriage, this life she had built with him, was no more. The man who once held her heart now only held her rage, and she would make him regret the day he ever betrayed her. Anna had always believed in love, in the fairy tale where two people could build a life together, full of shared dreams and promises. When she met Ethan, it felt like destiny. They were the perfect couple, or so it seemed. Their friends admired them, strangers envied them, and Anna had always worn the title of wife with pride. Theirs was a partnership built on the idea of mutual respect, support, and deep affection. But over the years, the edges of that perfect image began to fray. It started with small things: Ethan coming home late from work, his once passionate kisses turning mechanical. He no longer talked about the future, the things they would do together. He became distant, always preoccupied with his phone, his texts, his work calls. Anna dismissed it at first, writing it off as the pressures of his high-powered job. She knew the demands of his career as an attorney were intense, and she had always supported him. After all, that's what partners did, right? But there were moments, quiet, fleeting moments that made Anna uneasy. Like when Ethan's phone buzzed in the middle of the night, and he would bolt out of bed to take the call in the other room, or when he came home with the faint scent of perfume on his jacket, a scent she didn't wear. He had laughed it off as nothing, a colleague who had spilled something. But Anna's instinct knew something was wrong. Still, she trusted him, she wanted to trust him. So she buried her suspicions, tried to convince herself that everything was fine, that they were just going through a rough patch. But deep down, a part of her knew the truth. It was one evening, after Ethan had been particularly distant for a week, that Anna's curiosity got the best of her. She found herself, without even fully realizing why, going through his phone. She didn't want to, but the fear, the uncertainty gnawed at her. Her heart raced as she unlocked the device, and her stomach twisted when she saw the messages. They were harmless enough at first glance: work-related texts, plans for the weekend, and then, suddenly, a name she didn't recognize. Lily. At first, Anna didn't think much of it. Lily could have been anyone, but the more she saw, the more her suspicion grew. There were messages that went beyond professional pleasantries. Ethan and Lily exchanged inside jokes, flirtatious remarks, and, most painfully of all, plans to meet up when Anna wasn't around. There were pictures, two of Ethan in places she had never been, of smiles that didn't belong to her. The realization struck like a slap in the face. This was no coincidence, this was no one-time mistake. Like Ethan had insisted during the rare moments when she had confronted him about his behavior. This was an affair, and as the pieces of the puzzle began to click together, Anna saw their entire marriage in a new light. The late nights were not just about work, the unexplained absences, the lies, the secretive phone calls. It was all part of his double life. Ethan had been deceiving her for months or perhaps even longer, and she had been blind to it. Worse, she had excused his behavior, forgave him for every slip, for every unanswered question. The guilt of never trusting her instincts stung, but it was nothing compared to the pain of the betrayal that lay before her. Anna stood in their bedroom, phone in hand, the weight of the discovery settling on her chest. She thought back to their vows, to the promises they had made to each other, for better or worse, in sickness and in health. It all seemed so hollow now. The man she had once trusted with her heart had betrayed her in the most painful way possible, and worse, he thought she wouldn't find out. As she set the phone down on the bedside table, her mind began to race. What would she do now? Confront him? Demand an explanation? Or something else entirely? She could already feel the cold knot of rage tightening in her stomach. The thoughts of revenge flickered again, but this time, they weren't whispers, they were louder, stronger, taking root in her mind. Anna knew one thing for certain: her life, her marriage, would never be the same again. The love she had once felt for Ethan now felt like a distant memory, and in its place, something darker was growing. A desire for justice, a hunger for retribution. The thought of revenge, sweet and silent, consumed her. Tomorrow, Ethan would come home. Just like always, he would smile, kiss her cheek, and tell her about his day, but he would have no idea what was coming, no idea that Anna had uncovered his betrayal, no idea that his life was about to change in ways he could never imagine. The game was on, and this time, there would be no second chances. Ethan had no idea what was coming to him. Life had returned to its usual rhythm. Anna, always calm, always composed, had given no indication that anything was wrong. He hadn't even noticed the subtle shifts in her behavior, how she had stopped asking about his day or pressing for explanations when he came home late. He still took her for granted, assuming his secrets were safely buried, that she had no idea of the web of lies he had woven. The day after Anna's discovery, she acted as if everything were normal. She made breakfast, kissed him goodbye, and sent him off to work with a quiet smile, masking the storm of emotions brewing within. As Ethan walked out the door, Anna felt the first real pang of anger, not just for the betrayal, but for the man who had so arrogantly assumed she would never catch on. He had been careless, too confident in his ability to hide the truth. That was his first mistake. As the day wore on, Anna's resolve grew stronger. She had made her decision: no confrontation, no messy scene. Revenge would be sweet, silent, and calculated. There would be no public drama, no tearful confrontations in front of others. Instead, she would create a plan so meticulous, so clever, that even Ethan would be left stunned. This was not about vengeance for the sake of pride, it was about justice, about making him feel the full weight of the betrayal he had so casually inflicted on her. The first step was to carefully monitor Ethan's movements. Without him ever knowing, Anna didn't need to follow him around town. She simply needed to track his patterns, his late nights, his phone calls, his sudden, unexplained absences. It didn't take long to gather information. Ethan had been seeing Lily more frequently than he had admitted. He had been lying, not just to Anna, but to their friends, to everyone who believed in the perfect thought of their marriage. Anna found herself diving deeper into the layers of their life together. She went through old messages, their shared photos, all of it, and with each passing hour, her anger mounted. She felt like an outsider in her own home, as if she were no longer the loving wife but a stranger, someone who had to dismantle the lies piece by piece. By the end of the week, she had collected enough information to make her move. She knew exactly when Ethan would be meeting Lily, and she knew he wouldn't be home until late. That night, she would take the first step in her silent revenge, an action so small, yet so deeply satisfying. It would change everything. It was time to strike. But with subtlety, Ethan had to feel the weight of his lies, without ever understanding why it was happening. When Ethan arrived home that evening, the house was quiet. The smell of dinner lingered in the air, but the dining room table was empty. Anna was nowhere to be found. He thought much of it. She often went for walks or read in the study when he came home late. He didn't notice the small details like the faint scuff marks on the hallway floor, or the way his favorite jacket, which had always hung on the coat rack, was now missing. It wasn't until he entered the bedroom that he froze. The closet door was ajar, and inside, he saw that his clothes were gone, not just a few items but most of his belongings. The suits he had worn to countless meetings, the jackets he had worn to dinner parties, they were all gone. The drawers of the nightstand, usually filled with his things, were empty. He felt a chill run through him, a sinking sensation in his stomach. What was happening? He quickly went to the study, his mind racing. His pulse quickened as he opened the door, and Anna's absence hit him harder than he anticipated. But it wasn't just the emptiness of the room, it was the silence. The absence of her presence, the weight of it. It was then that he saw it, the laptop. Anna had left it open, the screen still glowing. Ethan walked over and noticed the browser was open, displaying a folder of photos of him and Lily, their stolen moments, their laughter, their lies, all laid bare before him. His stomach churned, his heart racing. In that moment, everything changed. He knew Anna knew. He felt it in the pit of his stomach, the crushing realization that the woman he had taken for granted had seen everything. He had no idea how long she had known, how long she had been waiting for him to make his move, but he knew one thing for sure: he was about to lose everything. As panic began to set in, Ethan scrambled to call Anna. His hands shook as he dialed her number. The phone rang several times before it went to voicemail. "Where are you?" His voice was laced with desperation, the weight of guilt and fear seeping through. But Anna didn't answer. She didn't need to. Anna had already made her exit. She didn't need to explain herself to Ethan. She didn't need to see his guilt-ridden face. The silent revenge had begun, and the final pieces of their marriage were falling apart, one small, calculated step at a time. Anna had no intention of leaving him to suffer immediately. No, that would be too easy. Instead, she would make him wait, watch as his world crumbled around him, piece by piece. The revenge wasn't just about punishing him for his affair. It was about regaining her own sense of power, about taking control of a life she had let slip away under the guise of love and loyalty. Ethan would have to live with the consequences of his actions, and Anna would make sure that the lessons learned from his betrayal would haunt him forever. Tomorrow, she would be gone for good, but tonight, she could allow herself one last taste of the power she had taken back. Silent, sweet, and just the beginning. The days that followed were a blur of silence and uncertainty for Ethan. He searched everywhere for Anna, but she was gone. Her clothes, her belongings all vanished. The only trace of her existence in their home was the haunting absence that consumed every room. He spent sleepless nights pacing, calling her phone repeatedly, but Anna's voice no longer greeted him. There were no answers, no explanations, just the echoes of a broken marriage that had once seemed so perfect. Anna didn't contact him. She didn't need to. Her revenge was not about confrontation. It was about self-liberation. It was about reclaiming the life that Ethan had stolen from her, piece by piece, through his lies and deceit. And so, she left without a word, her absence the most potent message she could send. In the months that followed, Ethan found himself lost in a haze of guilt and regret. His affair with Lily had faded, and he realized too late how deeply he had underestimated Anna's strength, her ability to endure, and to exact her justice in the quietest, most devastating way. The man who once felt untouchable, secure in his deception, now lived in the shadow of his own actions. He tried to reach Anna, to beg for forgiveness, but the messages went unanswered. She was gone physically and emotionally. For Anna, the journey of revenge wasn't about the satisfaction of seeing him suffer, it was about the painful realization that no amount of revenge could truly erase the betrayal. Her heart had healed, but it would never forget the wounds he had inflicted. Yet, in her departure, she found a peace she had never known. She was no longer bound to a life that wasn't hers. The silence she had embraced was her final act of strength. As she walked away from the ruins of her marriage, she knew she would never look back. The power she had regained wasn't in the revenge itself, it was in the choice to walk away, to free herself from a toxic love that had once consumed her. The moral of Anna's story was simple. Sometimes the greatest revenge is not in the hurt we cause others, but in the freedom we give ourselves. And in the end, Anna chose freedom.